Hello and welcome to this resource for Paper 1 Section B, that is the narrative or creative writing element of your English language GCSE. Today we're going to focus on that dark horse, punctuation. What is punctuation? It is those small symbols that you put in between sentences or in the middle of sentences to make your meaning a little clearer. As you know, you're going to be faced with 4 different story headings. You choose one, come up with a story that fits that heading, and then you're assessed for AO5, Communication Organisation, for 24 marks, and AO6, Vocab, Sentence Structure, Spelling, and Punctuation, a maximum of 16 marks. So first off, before we go any further, typical errors that are made in the exam: misuse of capital letters, not using paragraphs, not having a character or plot, and using long sentences with little punctuation are all things the exam board absolutely hammer you on, which is why you've got a copy there of the lowest band in this part of the exam. 0 marks, nothing worthy of credit. If you don't provide them with a story, it can't be graded. And equally, you concede for 1 to 3 marks there. Limited range of sentence structure, control of sentence construction is limited, some spelling is accurate, and limited range of vocab is all there for the absolute lowest grade in the test. So how can you prevent these? By checking your work and knowing what you graded for before you go into the test. So you can't really vary punctuation as the exam board needs you to for the highest grades without using sentences. So here's a quick recap then of the different sentence constructions you might want to use.
Hello there, and welcome to this quick revision guide on how to vary your sentence structure for your GCSE English exam. Okay, in this session we're going to think about the mullet. There it is, an awesome piece of fashion. Okay, 4 things to remember about sentence structure. First of all, I've got to point out sentence structure is really important. There's a lot in your exam mark schemes that hinge on the way you structure your sentences and the way you punctuate them. So it's really important to get it right. And here are your 4 key points to remember. Point number 1, simple sentences. Couldn't be easier to show you how to do them. Then when you can do a simple sentence, you can join 2 of them together into a compound sentence. We'll have a look at that. From compound sentences, we can move on to complex sentences, which are really not as complex as they sound. And then finally, we're going to look at using your sentence structures for impact. Okay, 4 things to look at. Start at the very beginning. Simple sentences. Easy, easy money. Here we go. 1 piece of information, and this is obviously 1 piece of information about the mullet. So, 1 piece of information, simple sentence: mullets are awesome. There we go, exclamation mark, capital letter at the beginning. That is a perfectly constructed sentence. And when people are trying to show off, they sometimes forget about the simplest option, which is the simple sentence, just 1 piece of information. But don't forget about them. There's one, here's another one. They make you irresistible to women. Again, same thing, clear sentence, full stop on the end, capital letter at the beginning, and it's nicely constructed, nothing wrong with it at all. Use them, show off, they can be quite powerful. Okay, that's sentence type number 1. To move on to sentence type number 2, we need to join 2 of these together. So here we're going to look at what we call compound sentences, and these are 2 simple sentences joined with a conjunction. I've started with the same sentences: mullets are awesome, they make you irresistible to women. And here we go, all I've got to do is put them together into 1 sentence, like so, and then I'm going to stick a connective or a conjunction in the middle, so I've put and in the middle. Mullets are awesome, and they make you irresistible to women, full stop. That is all it needs. Please note there is no comma in here next to the and. We don't need it. Think of our connective or a conjunction as being like cement holding bricks together. And if that's there, then there's absolutely no need for a comma because it does the job instead. Okay, so that's a compound sentence. We could, of course, switch this one around. We could take but instead of and. Or we could switch our clauses around. So they make you irresistible to women, but mullets are awesome. Well, that doesn't really make sense. So think about the word you choose, change it to so. They make you irresistible to women, so mullets are awesome. Full stop on the end, no comma. That's a compound sentence, really straightforward. And from there, we can look at turning it into a complex sentence. So, complex sentence. This time, instead of putting our connective in the middle, like the glue that holds the 2 things together, we're going to put it at the beginning, and then we're going to separate our 2 clauses, our 2 pieces of information with a comma. So to start, we're going to need 2 new simple sentences. I've got I love my mullet, and I've got my mullet can be smelly. 2 self-contained simple sentences about my mullet, and obviously we could join them together with a connective, so I love my mullet and it can be smelly. That would be fine, but we're not going to do that. We're going to go with our connective first, and this is what it's going to look like. Join them together, and then connective at the beginning. Although I love my mullet, it can be smelly. And this time, because our connective is right over there at the beginning, we are going to need a comma in the middle. So there it goes. Although I love my mullet, comma, it can be smelly, full stop. I can flip that around and say, although my mullet can be smelly, comma, I love it. Simple as. Those are the only rules you need to remember, and you will be getting this right. Okay, finally then, let's look at using these things together for impact. So, kind of exam question, describe yourself, paper 2 descriptive task. Looks very much like me, this guy, so here we go. Here's my bit of description. Although my friends have always ridiculed me, I am very proud of my mullet. It rocks. It keeps my neck warm and it makes me look cool. I love it so much. Well, first up, let's have a look at my sentence types in this short paragraph. I've got my simple sentence, I love it so much, one piece of information. I've also got a compound sentence. So that's 2 bits of information joined with the conjunction and in the middle. I've got a complex sentence at the beginning. I've started with my connective up there, and we can see my comma in there separating the 2 parts out. And then the final one I want to point out to you is just this little bit in the middle. The words, it rocks. Well, it is a simple sentence, but it's really short, it's really snappy, it's attention grabbing, 1 or 2 words. It's really powerful, and it just shows that you're really trying to get your reader's attention in there. So that's really it. That's all you've got to remember to vary your sentence structure. So just a quick recap. It's all about mullets. It's vital to get this right. It's vital to remember these rules. Simple sentences, 1 piece of information. Compound sentences, 2 pieces of information joined with a connective in the middle, no comma. Complex, put the connective first, put the comma separating the 2 clauses, and then finally use them for impact, throw in that short, snappy 1-word sentence, and you cannot go wrong. Thank you for watching.
There you go then, a short recap of the different sentence structures and how to use them for effect. So that is definitely one of the things you've been graded for, but to add to those sentence structures, you need to use a range of punctuation. So punctuation is the way meaning is clarified in a sentence. There are many different kinds of punctuation, as some are thought of a little more highly than others. Where's this being graded? Well, as you can see, we've got the right hand side there. We've got things like a range of punctuation being mentioned for band 3. Range of punctuation is used accurately for band 4, or around about your grade 5 to 6. And then band 5, it's got things like a range of appropriate ambitious vocabulary. A range of punctuation is used confidently and accurately. For that highest band, you need a range of punctuation. Here then is a punctuation pyramid. The lowest at the top there, the basic full stop you'd have learned back in primary school, and then moving through the different colours there down to the dark green, which gives you the full range of punctuation. I say full range, obviously it isn't all the punctuation you could use, but to get a range of punctuation at the highest level, you're probably looking at around about 8 different kinds, all used accurately. In short then, those top ones, you should be aiming a lot higher than just to use the basics and try and aim across that bottom green row. How could you plan to do that? Well, you make a list of punctuation down the side of your page and you tick each one off as you write. Most of you will use these anyway. It's things like question marks. You know how to use them. This is an English test, so just make sure you're using them in your story somewhere. You've got your good old speech marks there, and then you've got the higher order ones, the brackets, the dashes, the colons and the semicolons. And really that's where I'm going to devote today's attention, to that higher level punctuation. Here is some revision then for higher range punctuation that covers semicolons, colons and the dash.
Anna and Jim are best buddies. Whatever they do it together. Being a good friend can be fun. Each day can be full of surprises. Anna's friendship with Jim is described in 2 sentences, but you can link them using these punctuation marks. A dash, semicolon, or colon. Let's look at using a dash. Look again at the sentences. Being a good friend can be fun. Each day can be full of surprises. A dash replaces the full stop between the sentences. The E becomes lowercase. The dash links the two sentences in quite an informal way. Now, let's use a semicolon. Returning to the sentences, a semicolon can join them. Being a good friend can be fun. Each day can be full of surprises. The two sentences are now linked. A semicolon is more formal than a dash. Now, the colon. You use a colon before an example or explanation. Take these sentences. The day of ski racing was the best ever. They had won the trophy. A colon can be used to join them. The day of ski racing was the best ever. They had won the trophy. The second clause explains why it was the best day ever, and that's why you use a colon. They are best used in formal writing. The penguins formed a line. They all waddled to the sea. Let's join the sentences with a dash. The Yeti was lost. He called out for help. You can use a semicolon to link these sentences. The Arctic is home to some dangerous animals. The polar bear attacks if under threat. A colon can introduce the polar bear as it is an example of a dangerous animal.
There you go, there's your recap then of those key pieces of punctuation, the semicolon, the colon and the dash. So here is our flashback example. How could I use a semicolon, a colon or a dash in this response? Well, we know that semicolons link sentences formally, making the writing sound more assured and confident. We know dashes make writing sound informal and can replace full stops between sentences. This makes the writing more natural sounding. And we know colons are when you want to be super formal and create impact in your work, or at the beginning, of course, of a list of objects. So here is our example from the flashback. Where could I add in semicolons, colons or dashes into that response? Please pause the video and think about where you could add those. Here is my response then. You can see the punctuation highlighted in blue, which hopefully you can just about make out on your screens. And I haven't overused it. I haven't put all three into each paragraph because that just gets very confusing. But I have thought, where is the best to create impact there? Where is the most informal part of my work that would be appropriate to put the dash, in this case the skipping in the sunlight? And where would I want to create a bit more tension? Where would I want to really make the reader look closely at the wording I've used in my sentences? Okay, now let's look at the use of brackets, one of the other higher order punctuation you would need to use.
We parentheses live in pairs. We can't exist on our own. We clarify things that were not said and may not need to be known. Afterthoughts and asides that seek to clarify. We are not essential, why oh why, so we will speak our shy minds.
For a complete sentence inside the parentheses, put punctuation inside.
You'll never know what you'll find.
If it's not a complete sentence, put punctuation on the outside.
So you don't need to read between the lines this time. Brackets are special parentheses to clarify a quotation. They box my thoughts right within her words and give my interpretation. And so I clarify and comment or translate what he said to quote will speak my strong mind.
Use brackets to signal an interruption in quoted materials.
You never know what I'll find.
Bracket SIC means spelling incorrect.
So you will need to read between my brackets this time. Parentheses and brackets, 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 to clarify your status, parentheses and brackets.
So let's hear a range of other examples there. Brackets are used when we want to include information that's not essential to the main point of the sentence. If the part in brackets is removed, the meaning of the sentence would remain unchanged. Example, adding brackets to a piece of writing. If I was describing a battlefield, I might say, the battlefield is filled with death and destruction, open brackets, or open parentheses, perhaps this is where I will die, close brackets, full stop. In the next bit, the air is filled with screams, open brackets, there are 100,000 men on this beach alone, exclamation mark, close brackets. So you can see I've added information that could be taken away quite easily and the sentence would still make sense. In one case, I've added my thoughts, perhaps this is where I will die, and in the other I've added an extra fact, just what I thought would be interesting for the reader to know. Pause a bit there and think, well, why have I got the word let's in red in the top left? Well, notice I've used another kind of punctuation there. That's the apostrophe of omission. Let's is short for let us here. So I've taken away the U and put an apostrophe mark in between the let and the S. Just remember there are other kinds of punctuation to use as well. So look at this response. You've got my full response there based on my battlefield. Think about what skills I've used there, but equally think, how could I add brackets to this piece of work? What extra thoughts or facts or ideas could I add in? Or equally, where should there be brackets that in fact I've missed them out? Here is then the improved version with the brackets in place. Did you get them in the right place? And actually, when you look at it, of course, have I used colons, dashes and semicolons? Is there actually a chance for me to put those into the work as well? Now let's look again at semicolons, as that's the one that most people tend to forget or equally get confused with. So here is then a recap of semicolons.
They call me Sheriff Semicolon, 'cause I love semicolons, and I'm a sheriff. Did that rhyme? No. And I'm gonna give you a piece of my mind. Now listen up. It's gonna be exciting and super fast-paced. Not like that internet thing. So I reckon y'all better grab your horse and hold on. Whoa, Zippy! I am a Claus Wrangler, and we're not talking no Santa Claus. That's a little joke part. Yeah, if we want to show a close relationship between two independent clauses, just give me a holler, I'll give you value for your dollar. You rhyme. Yeah? I'll wrangle them right up here for you. Let's go even faster, Zippy! Yeehaw! Fellows, hold on tight. As we head to the courthouse, you can always put one sentence after the other, but if you want to show a closer connection between the two independent clauses, use a semicolon. So like I was saying, use me to connect independent clauses without the coordinating conjunctions. For example, the mayor wants to get this trial started. Semicolon. We're riding incredibly fast. Zippy's riding 2 miles per hour. Now that's fast. See that? I did it again. I put me in one of them there semicolons in between the last two clauses to get them all comfy and connected. Yeehaw! Keep up, there's more. Use me between independent clauses joined by a transitional expression or conjunctive adverb. For example, Jake was picking his nose when the bird flew into his face. As a result, he broke both his nose and his finger. The chocolate cow was dry yesterday, otherwise we would have had chocolate milk. There's another example. Can you find a semicolon in it? Use rewind. You can also use semicolons to list items that already have commas, like Paris, Texas, Athens, Texas, and Hong Kong, Texas. Without the semicolon, people might think you're actually leaving Texas sometimes. By the way, I'm just gonna spill the beans, hope it don't ruin your fun, but that there semicolon I asked about a while back, it was after the word yesterday. Anybody get that? Hey, fella. Hey.
So a semicolon divides sentences where a full stop should be to show a more formal connection between the two sentences. In addition, it can also be used for longer lists. For example, in the woods there were a row of tall, dark trees, a silent, calm pond, lots of dead leaves blowing on the ground. You can see I've used a semicolon before quite a detailed list there of not just single words, but a couple of adjectives as well. This second example wouldn't really be appropriate though for a piece of narrative writing, so I'm more likely to use a semicolon when linking two independent clauses, drawing closer links between them to create potentially impact. Let's remind ourselves of our setting paragraph then, or example setting paragraph. Where could I add a semicolon to this work then to show a closer relationship between two sentences, potentially for more dramatic impact? As you can see, I've now added one semicolon between undergrowth and traumatized because I want to emphasize the fact that I really have been completely ruined potentially by this crash landing. So traumatized is much closer linked to the idea of me laying there in this undergrowth. Notice I haven't filled it. There's lots of places I could have put a semicolon in, but I don't want to overuse this kind of punctuation. So I've just chosen one place to put it. So let's remind ourselves the exam board feedback for our school from last year's test. And we know they were really concerned with the number of basic errors on display, problems with spelling, punctuation, and technical accuracy. So you've got to make sure you're using these higher level punctuation in the right places to create the best impact you can. Here's an example then from last year's work. In this case, the student was given the title captured, and you can see there that brackets should have been added, highlighted in red. They've used short, sharp sentences for drip, drop, drip, which is quite powerful in the center there. And you can see they've got a lot of ticks in terms of their characterization and building up their story using connectives such as time connectives such as after minutes that felt like days. But if you look at the range of punctuation there, it's really minimal. And you can see most paragraphs actually only consist of maybe one, maybe two sentences at most, with a couple of spelling errors creeping in there as well. So this is a typical example of a student who thinks they've done quite well in the test, but because of their lack of range of punctuation and their lack of sort of spelling throughout being consistent and accurate, they lost quite a few marks for it. Look at this example. Where would you have added the brackets? Where would you have added the colons, semicolons, and dashes to really make this writing a bit more effective? Equally, what could you add description-wise? Could you actually develop those paragraphs into a lot more depth? Okay, today then, here's your exam question, A, B, C, D. As normal, you choose one of the story headings and try and write a paragraph that uses 8 or more different kinds of punctuation. Doesn't matter which paragraph you choose, the point is here you're trying to get a range into your work. Check your work, make sure you're using all the other skills as well. Don't just focus on the punctuation, think about all the other skills that you would need to show examples of there too. Thank you very much then for listening to this video based around punctuation and using higher order punctuation.